The galaxy was a vast and dangerous place, filled with species so powerful that they looked down on lesser civilizations. Among them was the Galactic Council, a group of advanced alien races who believed themselves to be the rulers of the stars. They had conquered countless worlds and defeated entire armies with ease. The Council's latest target? Earth. The Council had received reports about this tiny blue planet, a place where humans lived in peace and ignorance, far behind the technological marvels of the stars. Earth was nothing more than a blip on the radar of the galaxy's great empires. To the aliens, humans were weak, primitive, and easily conquered. But then, something strange happened. A message from Earth was intercepted by the Galactic Council's advanced communications network. At first, the aliens thought it was just a simple greeting, a diplomatic attempt from an insignificant race trying to make contact. But when the message was decoded, it sent a shockwave through the entire council. It was a warning. The message read: "We know you're coming. We know what you'll do. Don't underestimate us." The council's leaders laughed. They thought it was just the ramblings of a desperate species. The idea that humans could pose a threat to them, the most powerful beings in the galaxy, was absurd. It didn't matter how advanced Earth's technology had become, no one could stand against the might of the Galactic Council. One of the Council's top diplomats, Zyra, was tasked with the responsibility of contacting Earth. She was from the Seldar race, known for their sleek, technologically advanced ships and their calm, logical approach to diplomacy. Zyra had faced hostile species before, and her people had never been defeated. The Seldar had been at the forefront of the Galactic Council for centuries. The idea of negotiating with humans was nothing more than a formality. Zyra's assignment seemed easy. As Zyra's starship entered Earth's orbit, she marveled at the beauty of the blue planet below. It was a picturesque sight, beautiful oceans, vast continents, and endless skies. It seemed peaceful. There was no sign of the threat the Galactic Council had been warned about. It felt like any other mission, just another peaceful planet to be added to the Council's growing list of allies. Zyra's ship descended slowly into Earth's atmosphere, its sleek form gliding through the clouds. She could see humans looking up in awe. The inhabitants of this world had no idea what was about to unfold. To them, the arrival of an alien ship meant an opportunity to meet beings from beyond the stars. They couldn't have known that the very presence of this ship marked the beginning of their greatest challenge. As the ship touched down, Zyra was greeted by a group of Earth's leaders. They appeared calm, perhaps a little nervous, but nothing more. She could see them watching her closely, as if they were trying to figure her out. They had their military officials with them, but no one seemed prepared for what was coming. Zyra spoke in the most diplomatic tone she could muster, introducing herself and offering her people's friendship. But before she could finish her sentence, the atmosphere in the room changed. One of the human leaders, a tall man with dark eyes, stepped forward. He didn't say anything at first, just stood there, watching her with a serious expression. Then, he finally spoke. His words echoed in the room, sending a shiver down Zyra's spine. "We've been waiting for you." Zyra's heart skipped a beat. The human leader's words were strange, unexpected. She had prepared herself for pleasantries, for formal introductions, for talks of peace. But there was something in his voice, something in his eyes that made her realize this wasn't just a normal meeting. Before she could respond, an alarm blared across the room. The monitors on the wall flickered, showing live images from space. The view was unsettling, ships, alien ships, appearing to cloak in and out of sight, preparing to land across Earth's surface. The Galactic Council had sent reinforcements, thinking they could easily crush humanity if it came to that. The human leader stepped forward again, his voice cold and calm. "You shouldn't have come. You shouldn't have underestimated us." The Council's fleets had arrived. But something felt wrong. Zyra's ship had just landed, and already she was being faced with an unspoken threat. She didn't know it yet, but humanity had already prepared for this moment. The Galactic Council was about to learn the hardest lesson of all: never underestimate humans. Zyra's pulse quickened as she turned to face her ship's control panel. Something was wrong. The humans' warning had been no joke. She could feel it deep inside, a gut feeling telling her this was going to be far more complicated than anyone had ever imagined. And as the humans gathered their forces, the battle for Earth, and for the galaxy, was about to begin. The Galactic Council had made a grave mistake. They had underestimated humanity. The initial landing of Zyra's sleek starship was supposed to be the beginning of an easy takeover. Instead, it was the beginning of a conflict that would shake the galaxy to its core. Zyra stood at the control panel of her ship, her mind racing. The warning from the human leader echoed in her mind: "You shouldn't have come. You shouldn't have underestimated us." As she looked around, she saw the human soldiers preparing for something. They weren't just waiting to greet her, they were ready for battle. The human leader, a tall man named Commander Bonner, stepped forward again. He looked calm, but there was something about his eyes, something determined. The other humans were ready for anything, their expressions a mix of worry and resolve. Zyra could feel the tension in the air. It was like a storm had started to build. The atmosphere in the room shifted quickly. One of the human soldiers activated a small device, and suddenly, the hum of energy filled the air. From out of nowhere, several human ships appeared in the sky, cloaking themselves from Zyra's ship's sensors. These ships were nothing like the sleek and powerful designs of the Seldar. They were rough, old, and battered. But there was one thing the humans had that the Galactic Council had missed: ingenuity. Zyra tried to calm herself. She wasn't worried, not yet. The Galactic Council had fleets of warships that could easily destroy the small human fleet. But she had made a mistake by not taking the humans seriously. She turned to her crew, giving orders to track the human ships and bring them into view. But the humans were already ahead of her. Suddenly, the human ships launched a surprise attack. The first ship released a barrage of missiles, aiming straight for Zyra's ship. The Seldar crew quickly activated the ship's shields, but something unexpected happened. The human missiles didn't explode upon impact. Instead, they stuck to the ship's hull, vibrating with energy. The human missiles were specially designed to disable shields. Zyra's ship shook as the shields flickered and failed. "What is this?" Zyra gasped. She had never seen anything like this. The humans had developed weapons that were not only powerful but had clearly been designed to counteract the very things that made her species' technology so superior. It was a strategy the Galactic Council had never anticipated. The humans had adapted their old tech with new ideas, making them a much more formidable foe. The human fleet didn't stop there. Ships darted across the sky, cloaked and invisible, attacking from multiple angles. They moved with precision, working together like a swarm of insects, making it almost impossible for the Seldar to track them. The human ships had learned how to evade detection, and their tactics were unpredictable. Each attack caught the Seldar off guard. Zyra's crew was beginning to panic. The humans were not retreating, they were fighting back with everything they had. The Seldar hadn't expected this level of resistance. They thought they would land and negotiate, but instead, they had walked right into a trap. Zyra's mind raced as she gave orders to regroup and return fire. "Prepare to deploy the ground forces," she commanded, her voice steady but laced with tension. She knew the next step would be crucial. They needed to land on Earth's surface and neutralize the threat before the situation escalated any further. As the alien ships moved closer to Earth's surface, a strange feeling washed over Zyra. The humans were not acting like the weaklings they had assumed them to be. They fought with a determination that no other species had ever shown in her experience. She had seen countless worlds fall, but the humans fought like their very survival depended on it. Commander Bonner's face appeared on a nearby communication screen. His eyes were intense, filled with a cold fire. He wasn't afraid. You should have listened, Bonner said, his voice steady. This is our planet. We protect it, no matter who comes for it. Zyra could hear the confidence in his voice, but there was something else, something she hadn't expected. It wasn't just pride or arrogance. It was the calm of someone who knew they were ready to fight, no matter the odds. The humans had already made their first strike, and they had proven something that Zyra was not willing to admit yet: they were not the prey in this fight. They were the hunters. The ground forces were deployed soon after, and the battle moved from the skies to the surface. The humans had set up traps all over the landscape, using the environment to their advantage. Each attack was well planned, and every move was calculated to cause maximum damage to the alien forces. It was clear now, the humans weren't just trying to defend their planet. They were fighting back with everything they had, and they were making sure the aliens understood one thing above all: Earth was not a place to be conquered. Zyra's ship hovered over the battlefield as the humans' ground forces launched another wave of attacks. The air was filled with explosions, smoke, and the sounds of clashing forces. Earth was not the helpless, weak planet the Council had assumed it to be. The first encounter had already proven that. The humans were a force to be reckoned with. And the Galactic Council was in for a far more difficult fight than they had ever imagined. Zyra's mind raced as the battle continued. Every passing minute was a reminder of how much she had underestimated humanity. The once confident alien commander could feel the pressure building. She had seen entire fleets fall before, but this was different. These humans weren't like anything the Galactic Council had encountered before. As the last of the cloaked human ships vanished into the smoke-filled skies, Zyra turned to her officers. They were all working desperately to keep the ship in one piece, but it was clear they were losing ground. Their once perfectly coordinated attack had turned into a chaotic scramble, and she knew it wouldn't be long before the humans launched another strike. "Captain, we've lost communication with the ground forces," one of the officers reported. "They've been ambushed. We can't get any signals through." Zyra clenched her fists. This wasn't how it was supposed to go. The plan had been simple: arrive, intimidate, and take control. But the humans were proving far more resilient than anyone had predicted. She had seen some resistance in the past, but this was on another level. Their technology was crude, their tactics disorganized, but they had a tenacity that no one had expected. She tried to steady herself, but the frustration was building. How had they managed to stay one step ahead? Every time the Seldar made a move, the humans countered it. It wasn't just their weapons or their ships, it was the way they thought, the way they acted. The humans were unpredictable, and that was something the Galactic Council had never been able to handle. "Commander Zyra," one of the officers spoke up, "we've detected something on the surface. A large human base. It's well guarded, heavily fortified. The ground forces are regrouping there." Zyra's eyes narrowed. If they could just break through that base, they might finally have a chance to control the situation. But there was something strange about the report. The human base wasn't just fortified, it was built with a purpose, designed to withstand attack. It seemed too well planned for something that was supposed to be a last-minute defense. Zyra's gut told her something was off. The humans didn't just act out of desperation. There was a method to their madness, a cold and calculated precision to their every move. They weren't just defending Earth, they were defending something bigger. "What do you mean, designed to withstand attack?" Zyra asked, her voice sharp. "Explain it to me." The officer looked uneasy but explained, "The structure has layers of defense, Captain. The humans seem to have anticipated a large-scale attack. The walls are reinforced with alloys we haven't seen before, materials that can resist our weapons." Zyra stood up suddenly, her thoughts swirling. The humans weren't just reacting, they had prepared for war. They had been expecting an attack. This wasn't just a random series of battles, they had been planning for this moment for years, maybe longer. She had always thought of humans as primitive and weak, but now she saw them in a new light. They were survivors, builders, and fighters, all rolled into one. Her mind flashed back to Commander Bonner's words, "We protect our planet, no matter who comes for it." He had said it with such calm conviction, and now it echoed in her thoughts. The humans had known something the Seldar hadn't. They had known that one day, an invasion would come, and they had been ready for it. Zyra's hands shook slightly as she gazed at the map of Earth's surface. The humans had taken this fight seriously, even before they knew who was coming for them. They had gathered intelligence, created strategies, and most importantly, built a defense that could hold its ground against a superior force. It was then that Zyra understood. The humans hadn't been caught off guard. They hadn't been frightened or intimidated. Instead, they had spent centuries perfecting the art of survival. Their greatest strength wasn't their weapons or ships, but their ability to adapt and think in ways the Council never could. They had outsmarted the Seldar at every turn, and it was becoming clear that no matter how advanced their technology was, the humans would always find a way to fight back. Zyra felt a cold chill run down her spine. This wasn't just about winning a battle anymore. The humans weren't just a species to conquer, they were a species to be reckoned with. The Galactic Council had made a huge mistake by underestimating them. They had awakened a force they were not prepared to face. "Captain, the human base is launching countermeasures," another officer said, breaking Zyra's thoughts. "They're sending out drones, countless numbers of them." Zyra snapped back to reality. She knew that this was only the beginning. If the humans could manage to fight this hard with their primitive technology, what would they be capable of if they had more time to prepare? What could they accomplish if they had the resources to truly compete with the Council's forces? The Seldar had thought they were the apex of civilization, the supreme beings of the galaxy. But now, Zyra realized the truth. The humans were not the prey in this fight. They were the hunters. And the Galactic Council had made a terrible mistake by underestimating them. Zyra stood on the bridge, staring out at the chaos unfolding in front of her. The once pristine landscape of Earth was now a battlefield, with dust and smoke rising from the surface. The humans had done the impossible, they had turned the tide of battle. In just a few short hours, they had gone from being underdogs to holding the upper hand. Zyra could hardly believe her eyes. It had started as a routine invasion. The Seldar fleet had descended upon Earth with the intent to destroy, to wipe out humanity and claim the planet for their own. The humans were weak, they had thought, their technology primitive compared to the advanced Seldar ships and weapons. But now, as the Seldar fleet struggled to maintain control, it was clear the humans were no longer the weak, defenseless species they had assumed. Zyra clenched her fists. The cost of underestimating humanity was becoming painfully clear. Her forces had suffered unimaginable losses. The once powerful armada of warships was now reduced to a fraction of its original strength, scattered across the orbit around Earth. The humans, with their relentless fighting spirit, had driven them back, and the Seldar were on the verge of total defeat. "Captain, we have multiple casualties in the rear fleet," one of her officers reported, his voice tense. "It's a complete mess. They're retreating, but we can't keep up with the human counterattacks." Zyra closed her eyes, trying to calm herself. The reality of the situation was setting in. The Seldar, the so-called masters of the galaxy, were being beaten by a species they had dismissed as insignificant. She had always believed that the Galactic Council's technology and superiority in battle would make any resistance pointless. But now, she saw just how wrong she had been. How did they do it? Zyra asked, more to herself than anyone else. How did they turn the battle around so quickly? The officer looked uncertain. Their tactics, they're unpredictable. They're using guerrilla warfare on Earth, attacking our supply lines, sabotaging our ships from within. They've figured out how to target our weaknesses. Zyra's mind raced. It wasn't just the human strength that had surprised her. It was their ingenuity. Their ability to adapt to a rapidly changing situation, to use the resources at their disposal to fight back, was unlike anything she had ever seen. She had thought their military strategies were outdated, their technology obsolete. But the humans had turned those same supposed weaknesses into their greatest advantage. The officer continued, the ground forces have also made progress. We thought the human base was just a diversion, but it's a well-organized stronghold. They've been using advanced tactics to keep us off balance. We've lost contact with several of our forward units. Zyra gritted her teeth. The humans weren't just defending Earth, they were fighting for their very survival. They had understood the stakes far better than she had. She had thought that once the Seldar landed on Earth, the humans would fold under pressure, just like every other species they had conquered. But this wasn't like every other conquest. Earth's defenders weren't intimidated, they were emboldened by the threat, pushing back with everything they had. They won't stop, Zyra muttered to herself. Not now, not after everything that's happened. Her thoughts were interrupted by another report. Captain, we've received a message from the human forces on the surface. They're demanding our immediate surrender. They say if we don't, they'll use their weapons against us. Zyra scoffed. They're threatening us? After all this destruction? How dare they? But even as she spoke, a cold feeling washed over her. The humans had already proven they were capable of unimaginable things. If they were threatening to use their weapons, it was because they had the power to do so. What kind of weapon could they have developed that would make the Seldar retreat? Zyra had never considered that possibility, until now. What kind of weapons are they talking about? She asked, her voice tense. We're not sure yet, the officer replied. But their forces have been gathering something. We've seen strange energy signatures, and they've been building large-scale devices on the surface. If they deploy them, we might be in real danger. Zyra turned back to the view screen, her mind racing. The humans had developed something powerful enough to strike fear into the heart of the Seldar. She had underestimated them before, but now, the consequences of her mistake were all too clear. The humans weren't just fighting for survival anymore. They were fighting to win. As the situation continued to deteriorate, Zyra realized the full extent of her mistake. The Seldar had come to Earth believing they were invincible, that no force in the galaxy could stand against them. But now, humanity was proving them wrong in the most painful way possible. The consequences of underestimating a species like humanity were disastrous, and the Seldar were beginning to feel the weight of their hubris. The battle for Earth was no longer about dominance, it was about survival. The humans had turned the tables, and now it was the Seldar who had to fight for their lives. The consequences of their invasion would ripple through the galaxy for years to come, and Zyra knew one thing for sure, this would be a lesson the Galactic Council would never forget.